Hey guys, it is NCS Fan 001 here for the 4th episode of Destiny Cookbook Recipes. In today's video, we're going to be heading into the section of the book that is based basically around Southern home cooking. I mean, seriously, I love this chapter. It's The Tower, the Hanger is the name of it. It's got hush puppies, it's got white sausage gravy, it's got fried chicken, it's got what looks like sweet tea and chicken fried steak. So a bunch of stuff that probably has nothing to do with Destiny, but is food that I love because I'm from the South. Anyway, today's recipe, though, is Buttermilk Biscuits. This is a medium difficulty recipe with a prep time of 1.5 hours, a 13 to 16 minute cook time. It will yield 12 biscuits, and it is vegetarian but has dairy in it. Sometimes on busy days, Amanda will request that I bring a few batches of biscuits to the hangar to keep the workers' spirits up. This biscuit recipe is a simple and delicious one that will warm the soul, especially when paired with white sausage gravy. I'm not a big gravy person, despite being a Southerner. So this is going to require 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of the orange and lime rosemary salt from the first episode, a quarter teaspoon of baking soda, a tablespoon of baking powder, a cup of unsalted butter that is cubed and chilled in the freezer for 20 minutes. That is 2 sticks of butter, by the way, 1 1/4 cups of buttermilk that has also been chilled, and 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter melted for the later steps. Alright, so our first step is to combine the 3 cups of flour with the 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, as well as the orange and lime rosemary salt, baking powder, and baking soda into a medium-sized bowl. So let's go ahead and do that. 3 cups of flour, and I mean, the good thing about this recipe is that it's not a whole lot of ingredients. I mean, it's just, flour, a little bit of sugar and salt, baking soda, baking powder, and butter. And that's what a biscuit should be. It should be simple. It shouldn't have a whole lot of ingredients. Okay, that's our first cup of flour. 2 cups of flour. 3 cups of flour. So, along with that, we are going to need 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. Got my sugar right here. We have 1 tablespoon. Alright, so I don't actually have a half tablespoon measure, but it looks like 1 tablespoon is 3 teaspoons, which means we need 1.5 teaspoons to round this out. I don't know why I don't have that, but there's a lot of stuff I'm constantly missing in these videos. There's the 1 teaspoon, and now we just need the half teaspoon. Alright, so that's the sugar. Now we need 2 teaspoons of the orange and lime rosemary salt. So of course this is the salt that, like I said, tastes very much more like salt than anything else. So hopefully this comes out relatively well. And it's still got the full black peppercorns in it because, you guys remember that. Now we need the tablespoon of baking powder, which is the canned. It's a lot of baking powder, actually. So 1 tablespoon of baking powder. And finally, we need a quarter teaspoon of baking soda, which I have right here. I do have a quarter teaspoon measure. Alright, that's all of our initial ingredients. Now we have to add the cubed butter, which chilled for a little over 20 minutes actually, which should be fine. And we combine it with our hands until it resembles coarse cornmeal. Then we will place it in the refrigerator for at least 15 minutes. Alright, so this is what the mixture currently looks like, so I'm going to combine this with my hands. Probably done more heavily off screen. I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but I've never actually made homemade buttermilk biscuits, but I have made homemade cornbread biscuits that were just like 3 ingredients, like cornmeal and a couple other things. And they're not sweetened cornbread, but they're actually pretty good, whatever exactly what they were. I don't remember the exact recipe. I need to ask my grandparents because they're the ones that know the recipe, and I'll probably make that at some point, even though it's not in the cookbooks. It's delicious. I love it. I gotta admit, guys, this is coming together pretty well. I didn't know how this was gonna be given how cold the butter was, like if it would work properly or not, but it is starting to feel more like cornmeal and the butter's starting to get worn down into the mixture, so I think this is going to end up working out, even though biscuits are not the easiest thing in the world to make. My parents tried to make it and didn't have much luck with it. Alright guys, so it's not completely done yet, but once it's done, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the fridge or the freezer, whatever it said in the instructions, for 15 minutes. I believe it said the fridge. Yes, I can confirm it said the fridge for 15 minutes, so that way I can let my camera battery charge and everything, and I will be back to you guys once that 15 minutes has elapsed. Alright guys, so now that this thing has chilled in the fridge for 15 minutes, this is what it now looks like. Looks pretty good. It looks like coarse cornmeal, maybe a little bit lumpier, but that's honestly not too bad. So now we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of buttermilk and stir until it is slightly shaggy, a term that I have never heard used, but it says about 3 minutes. So 1 1/4 cups. This has just enough room in it. There we go. Yeah, it does smell like buttermilk. It had a weird consistency to it. I don't remember buttermilk being so runny, but I guess that's what it is. So now we're going to stir this up for about 3 minutes. Let it all get combined and shaggy, whatever that means. I've never heard that term used before for cooking. And I also have a wooden spoon now, as you guys can probably see. This is something that I've been meaning to get for a while, but now I have one. So it's another implement that I have in the kitchen. I don't have everything I need, but this definitely is another important item. Alright guys, here's the dough mixture. It actually looks more gravy-ish than dough. It feels like it might be a little too wet, so hopefully everything works out. So now we need to transfer this to a floured countertop. In this case, it's flour on a cutting board because I don't have a good countertop for this. I mean, I guess this countertop would work fine, but it's not probably ideal. So we need to knead it 10 to 15 times. Guys, this stuff feels really weird. It feels like I don't know if I'm kneading properly, but it definitely feels like probably a little too much buttermilk was in this. And I did the 1 1/4 cups, so I think if you're making this, you might want to use a little less buttermilk than that. Maybe 1 cup would probably do it well enough. Now it is coming together, don't get me wrong, this is actually coming together. But it seems like it was probably a little bit too much. And it's also starting to smell like dough is the thing. It's got these chunks in it which are probably left over from previous steps that I didn't do correctly. Because remember, these videos are not entirely meant to be informative, more entertaining than informative. Because I'm not much of a chef. I'm much better at baking than actually cooking stuff or combining ingredients to make drinks. But this is coming together. It is coming together like a dough. It's probably going to end up making fewer biscuits than it wanted me to, but honestly that's okay. Because that way if they're terrible, it doesn't hurt anything. It's less of a waste if they're terrible. I feel like, don't you usually need yeast to make bread-based dishes? Maybe not, but I thought that was like a common thing in bread-based dishes was yeast. Alright, so we're supposed to roll this dough out into a rectangle that's about 1 inch tall. It's still extremely runny, so I probably didn't do this correctly. Yeah, I'm sure I didn't do this correctly. But oh well, it's my first try. Biscuits, homemade ones, are not the easiest thing in the world to make. Okay, that was a bad idea. It says we're supposed to fold the dough over onto itself, but I made a mistake somewhere because this isn't really foldable. Okay, I've got an idea. I'm gonna modify this recipe a little bit to suit my needs for how badly this has gone. Okay, so since I pretty clearly screwed up at multiple points, charge the battery pack. Oh great, it's doing that stuff again. But since I clearly screwed up at multiple points, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna try to salvage this recipe by putting this in muffin cups as well as some... Okay guys, so my camera battery died again. There's something definitely wrong with it, either with the battery or with the charger. I don't know which one is the issue, it could be both. So I'm gonna need to get a new battery and charger fairly soon, probably before the next recipe if possible. But here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to salvage this recipe because I clearly did something wrong somewhere. So what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna dump this into some muffin tins, as well as some more biscuit-sized muffin tins, and we're gonna hope for the best. You need to go ahead and preheat your oven to 425 degrees. That's how far you're supposed to cook it on. Okay, actually what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to put these on a baking sheet and put it in the freezer for 20 minutes. And then we're gonna take it out and lightly dust with melted butter. That's where the rest of the butter step comes from. So we're gonna do that, but we're just gonna do it with muffins and see if I can salvage this. Well, that's something, I guess. I mean, they solidified a bit, so I guess this could be worse. So now we're supposed to dust this with melted butter, which it says 2 tablespoons, but let's be honest here, no self-respecting Southerner would be skipping out on the butter. I mean, I will use as much as I feel like, and I suggest you guys do the same. Might make you die a year earlier, but at least you'll be happy. Alright, so now that we are buttered up, I'm going to stick these in the oven for, I believe it says, 15 to 20 minutes. So I will see you guys in 15 to 20 minutes. Alright, to be honest guys, these look like they came out pretty well. I mean, I know that it's not exactly what was supposed to happen, but they look good. So honestly, I'm not too worried, but now we got to give them a taste test. First off, here's one out of its container, or out of the baking container. They look good. Like I said, they do look like muffins. So maybe we made buttermilk muffins instead, which I'm not sure is normally a thing. So let's find out. Oh, it's falling apart. That's probably not good. Well, let's see. That's shockingly good. It tastes like a buttermilk biscuit, just in a different form and more crumbly. That's good though, like... You get a hint of that orange and lime rosemary flavor in these. But wow, that's actually pretty good. Like, alright, so this was a failure in terms of the preparation because I clearly did something wrong, but this has a fantastic taste to it. It tastes like a buttermilk biscuit, just in a muffin form and a little more crumbly. I don't know if that seasoned salt did a whole lot to it. I think you're probably better off just using regular salt. But otherwise, this was good, surprisingly. So you're not going to see me make these again because I'm clearly not good at it. And it takes a lot of time and effort. I'd rather just buy store-bought cheapo biscuits. But these are good. So I would say if you can hopefully do better than I can at making the recipe, then you need to try these because they are delicious. As a Southerner, I love biscuits, so would highly recommend considering trying to make these if I were you guys. I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's definitely worth making a try. So yeah, these are, like I said, these are pretty good even though they came out as muffins, but I think that shows that I am improving a little bit in cooking because I was able to salvage that mess and turn it into something edible. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, favorite, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon for more content.